Call the Zoning Commission regular meeting of April 17th to order. We have a full set of commissioners, so we don't need to appoint any alternates. And before we get to the first order, which is the minutes, I'm going to go to the podium. And retrieve a plaque which the town has given to Mr. Gray in honor of his 30 years of service.
Thank you. Thank you. See, that's what the water's for.
Oh, that's nice. Congratulations. 30 years, my goodness.
Lots of nights, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, the next order is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting of April 3rd. Any comments or corrections?
I read the minutes of that meeting, and I didn't see any need for corrections or additions, so I move that we approve them as they were submitted.
I will second.
Second by Diane. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carry 6-0. It's approved. Nobody abstained. Okay. The next order of business is to continue the public hearing of application 23-03 of Vessel Real Estate Holdings. I believe the Vessel people would like to tell us a little bit more.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Peter Alter. I'm a lawyer. I practice law in Glastonbury at the firm of Alter and Pearson. And just to complete the record, I did deliver to Mr. McGregor before the meeting started an extension of time through your meeting of May 2nd. As you may be aware, we have not yet had a wetlands decision, but it's anticipated that we will have one before your May 2nd meeting. As you know, by statute, you cannot act until such time as you have a wetlands decision. Hopefully that'll be forthcoming. I do want to very briefly update the Commission on some changes to the plans that have been made. The wetlands process has proceeded. One of the challenges of the Wetlands Agency when it determined that we be treated to the opportunity of a public hearing is that we're asked to present prudent and feasible alternatives to our plan. Just to reacquaint everyone very, very briefly, this plan that George has put up on the screen is our original plan. It's an 80-unit design. Again, the building is in the southeasterly corner of the property. Hop Meadow is out here. We're about 300 feet back from Hop Meadow Street. In this plan, we showed 95 parking spaces to service the 80 units. The Commission expressed some concerns about whether or not that was adequate parking. I think we had shown you before, at the request of the Inland Wetlands Agency, that we moved the dumpster, which was previously located in the northerly portion of the property, to the southerly portion, and that's been accomplished on this 80-unit design. The presentation to the last presentation to the Inland Wetlands Agency proposed to reduce the building footprint and the number of units. If you could go to the other one, George, please, the other plan.
You've got the clicker, sir.
Oh, forgot.
Yep, so I can.
Thank you for reminding me. We've reduced the building by 20%, going from 80 units to 64 units, thereby increasing the separation from the southerly boundary to about 35 feet, and increasing the separation from the northerly boundary up to now 90 feet back from the corner of the building.
Would you mind going back to the 80 and then back to the 64 now that I'm paying
I'd be happy to.
Thank you, sorry.
There's the 80.
Yeah, got it.
With the larger footprint, it's exactly 20% larger. And again, we had parking along the northerly boundary, parking in the center, parking along the southerly boundary. And we had already moved the dumpster. I honestly can't remember whether we showed you this plan or not, but at the request of the Wetlands Agency, we moved it from here down to here. Still bear-proof or bear-resistant. I guess I shouldn't say bear-proof, nothing is, but we've relocated it at the request of that Wetlands Agency. Now to the 64, same scale. The building has been reduced by 20%, so we're down to 64 units. What we propose to, and as I indicated, we increase the separation from the southerly boundary and increase the separation from the northerly boundary by that reduction. What we have proposed to the Wetlands Agency, and I present to you this evening, is that there will be 73 paved parking spaces provided immediately, and there will be an additional set of 29 parking spaces, 26 along here and 3 along here, for a total of 29, done with porous pavers, so that they will reduce the stormwater runoff that goes into the drainage system and increase the infiltration of rainwater into the groundwater, which of course is a desirable effect. If we're wrong, and you're right, that we didn't have an adequate parking amount, now for the 64 units, if we find that we have inadequate parking, these parking spaces can be built along with these, and we'll have 102 parking spaces for 64 units. Again, it's our belief, based on our experts, that we have adequate parking to begin with, but in an acknowledgement of this Commission's concern, we have now not only kept all the parking that we had before. We originally had 95 spaces. We actually have been able to increase the number of spaces so that we're up to 102 spaces on site, with porous pavers to be used on, as I said, 29 of those spaces. The other change that I want to mention, a commissioner had mentioned the concern about bicycle storage. We had shown a bike rack over here, and Vessel has been investigating appropriate opportunities to provide cover storage for the bikes. While I don't have a design to show you today, I will be able to show you one by the time we are together again, which will offer the opportunity for residents to store their bikes under cover, so that even in inclement weather, they're not faced with wet or otherwise impacted bicycles, if that's their principal means of transportation. So we've reduced the scale of the project by 20%. We've increased the parking to 102 spaces. We've increased the setbacks. As you know, in your zone, in this particular zone, we actually have a 12-foot side yard for building. We're at about 35 feet here. We're about 90 feet here. We did add a porous paving access at the request of the fire marshal out to the rail trail in that space so that they would have access to that trail. It's my understanding that Mr. McGregor, if he chooses to, can confirm that town staff has now reviewed all of the plans and is satisfied from a technical basis that all of the town's concerns or questions have been answered. The reduction of units didn't change any of the storm drainage system. You'll remember that Mr. Moran, our project engineer, described in great detail the underground stormwater drainage treatment train and system for the control of stormwater in accordance with what's known as MS4 and the control of the runoff. None of that changes with the reduction in the number of units. It stays exactly the same, even though there'll be substantially less. I shouldn't say that. There'll be less. I don't want to use the word substantially. There will be less runoff going into the system based on the porous pavers that will be used if these parking spaces are constructed. If they're not constructed, then that will become green space. Landscape plan didn't change. Everything remains as it is. We've discussed at great length a variety of other items. I do want to confirm that Vessel is certainly willing to grant the town an easement to install sidewalks along the frontage. If there ever becomes an opportunity to put sidewalks on the east side of Hop Meadow, I know right now the project is underway for the west side. You're all aware that there's a substantial topographic challenge just north of this property where Second Brook comes under Hop Meadow and then continues out towards the Farmington River. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but this is the design that we are hopeful that the Inland Wetlands Agency will act upon as a feasible and prudent alternative to our original plan, and we would ask that if we're successful with them and secure a wetlands permit, that this would be the design we would then ask you to act on as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
Okay.
Donna?
I don't have any questions.
Bruce?
I have a few questions. Actually, I'm very interested in what the area residents have to say about the changes, but I've had taken the time in the last couple of weeks to visit the site a couple times, and I'm a little anxious about the plans for the fire apparatus to reach the east side of that building, as well as the south side. And I know there's more space on the south side now, but we were informed at a previous meeting that the fire chief, Jim Baldus, had okayed the plan as it was. And having looked at it in person now and knowing that the design responds to a 40-foot long truck, it's very specific in the plan, shows the ability of the fire trucks to access the front parking lot and maneuver reasonably in the front parking lot. But when I look at this space and a 40-foot long fire truck, I just can't see how this is going to work to rescue. Picture people that are trapped on the fourth floor in those apartments on the fourth floor on the east side of the building, and especially the ones in the southern apartments, the last couple. They are so far distant from the access where the porous pavers are. I'd like to see a drawing that shows the maneuvering of a 40-foot fire truck and where it's going to sit with a 100-foot ladder and be able to reach these people that might be on the fourth floor. I realize that the building has sprinklers, but no system is perfect, and I think it's reasonable to inquire further about the arrangements for that backside of the building. I'm also interested in whether the applicant has applied for an easement to use the Connecticut, state of Connecticut property, the bike path and the whole access way as the means to get emergency apparatus into the back side of the building. And I ask that partly because I know that from experience with an existing easement on the railroad right-of-way in Avon, that when the DOT or the state of Connecticut issues an easement, it's with two conditions. And one is that the party that's granted the easement has to provide insurance, $100,000 million minimum liability insurance policy, naming the state as the insured. And in addition, they have to acknowledge that they know the state retains the right to cease that easement at any point in the future when they want to identify a new use for the land that has to do with transportation purposes. So easements once granted are not necessarily forever, and we're talking about building a building here that's going to be 40 years, 80 years, maybe 100 years that I'll be standing there. And I think it's important to know that there's going to be some secure fire access for the apparatus to get to the back of the building, even though there's sprinklers in the building. And again, I'd like to see a drawing that confirms that, and I know the engineering firm had produced a drawing, so they are familiar with the turning radius and that sort of thing of this particular fire truck. I'm not sure how much effort it would take to produce a drawing that shows the back of the building and the positioning of the fire truck and the distance the ladder has to extend to reach people on that fourth floor. Really, all of those fourth floor apartments are a concern, the third floor too. But it's slightly less of a concern now that the building is shorter. So the southeast corner is closer to but the units themselves are still where they were. You didn't move the building to the north. You simply cut off part of the building to the south to make it smaller. That's my sense of it. Maybe I'm wrong, but is that a fair interpretation of the redesign, that it's really the building is in the same place on the north end of it? And it's simply the south end that has been reduced in size that's created more of a setback.
Oh, sure. I don't believe that's correct. I think it's been reduced at both ends.
Okay. Well, it doesn't change my concern about having some better assurance that a 40-foot-long fire truck fits back there.
If I could respond to that?
Sure.
Sure.
That's up to you.
Are you done?
No.
Oh,
I'm done with that topic.
would you like to finish all your topics?
No.
Okay. With respect to fire protection, obviously this plan was reviewed by your fire personnel with respect to whether they were satisfied that the Simsbury Fire Department could adequately protect this building. And the indication from the fire marshal, and Mr. McGregor can certainly disagree with me if he chooses to, was that he had no issues with the design or the access. I also believe that we provided a map with turning radii for a variety of vehicles, including Simsbury's fire apparatus, and that was part of our plan submission back in the original presentation that we made. I think Mr. Moran went over that plan at that point. The answer to your first question is your expert doesn't have a problem with it. And I certainly don't know what your expertise is, sir, but your expert has told you it's not an issue for him. We have produced a drawing that shows that a fire apparatus can access the site. There is no intention by us to provide access to a fire apparatus out on the trail for the purpose of protecting this building. The only purpose for that access way out to the Heritage Trail was at the request of the fire marshal that we have a surface that it can travel over, and we've provided that. They view it as another access for an emergency on the trail. It has nothing to do with fire protection for our building. I will also remind everybody, as you did, that the building is fully sprinkled, so that that greatly reduces the danger to inhabitants, as we all know. In addition to that, this is not a wood frame building. This is a steel structure, so that it is not typical wood frame podium style multifamily dwelling. The fire marshal was aware of all of that when he analyzed this and reviewed it and indicated that there was no issue. So with all due respect, I think we've answered all of those questions.
Could you pull up the drawing that shows the fire apparatus,
I certainly can.
radii on the back of the
Perhaps
building?
Mr. McGregor can.
Okay.
So I don't know that I have that readily available, sir, but I do have a hard copy. So the submitted vehicle turning demonstration simply shows and demonstrates the turning movements through the access way or through the drive aisles.
Right.
It doesn't dispose to try and show how firefighting takes place on the western back of the building. It's simply
It's the eastern,
it's a turning radius through the access points. And
through the parking lot.
Yes.
through the parking lot, yes, sir.
Right. And as I said, it doesn't show any of the movement scenarios for fire apparatus at the west or the east side of the building where I'm sharing concern. I could see the drawing relative to the representation of the west side of the building. I got that.
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
It was available, on the Dropbox and also to the public for months now. I got that part.
Okay, does she have another question?
Not right now.
Okay. Kevin? Ann?
I'm sorry, there was one other comment that the commissioner made with respect to access out to the trail. That's an amenity for this site that would be of benefit to the tenants if the state of Connecticut chooses not to grant that easement or it's really a license, since the state can revoke it at any time. Then we won't have an access. It doesn't change our plan. It means that our residents would have to walk somewhere else for access to the trail. It's not the touchstone of this development to have access to the trail. If the state of Connecticut, for whatever reason, chooses not to grant us a license to have an access from this property onto the trail, that's unfortunate, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to us.
It wasn't my question. You are saying that you're applying for a license to access the trail
We will.
for,
State of
Okay.
Connecticut won't act on any request.
not necessarily for
until we
fire
demonstrate local approval. So,
Yeah.
We haven't done it yet.
Okay, let's move on.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the changes you made for parking. I mean, that was a real concern of ours, and I appreciate that you addressed it. I have one other just further question. Are there any plans for electric charging stations?
Yes, the plan, it's hard to see, and I apologize for that, but
I can't bring it up.
there are 10 electric charging stations
Perfect, thank you.
along that northerly boundary. They're identified on the plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Diane? Okay.
I do.
Melissa?
First, I want to reiterate what the other commissioner said, and I appreciate the responsiveness that the applicant has shown to the concerns that we've raised beforehand, and I do appreciate that good faith. I have a couple of questions about how the project has been changed. One is, with respect to the porous pavers that you proposed along the north end there, if those parcels, if those spots do need to be used for parking in the future, will they remain porous, so have the same impact on the wetlands area or not, or drainage? They'll remain porous no matter what?
Correct.
Great. I know that where the garbage is now was one of the spots that you had contemplated using for, for snow removal or snow storage in the past. Is that where snow is still going to go, or where is snow going to go now?
So, in the revised plan, we still have an area here, we have the area here, and we have an area here, all of which outside the 100-foot upland review area is sort of the line that goes like that. So we would stay outside of that. We did not lose a great deal of snow storage as a result of this. We still have room to push snow in here. This is still a very shallow detention basin as it was earlier designed. I think in one of the in the very first design, we also had a basin over here. That's now gone. We don't need it anymore. So this will be an open area. And we're showing a couple of picnic tables and opportunities here for tenants because this area is now available.
With respect to that upper left-hand corner where snow might go, is there a drainage system there to prevent it from getting to the uplands area?
Yes,
Okay.
all of the drainage design, if you look at the grading plan, not right this minute, but if you choose to, what you'll see is that all of the drainage in this area is designed to come back towards the drainage system and the catch basins that are within the parking area. There's no drainage, no surface drainage that will leave the site to the north.
Thank you. I have a little list, sorry. Will the project as amended still be energy net zero?
Yes.
Great. And Bruce went through one of those. Do the size of the units remain the same? And do we still have the same allocation of single to double to 2 bedrooms?
There's still 3 2-bedroom units
Okay.
and the rest are 1-bedroom units, yes.
And are the 2 bedrooms in the affordable zone, or?
Under the standards for an 830G, we have to have a proportion.
Right.
So we're going to end up having one
One of them will
two-bedroom
be?
will be affordable. So that'll be in proportion to the 1-bedroom versus 2-bedroom.
Okay. One of the things that we're required to consider when we are contemplating whether to ask you for other alternatives is whether the project can stay viable. I know you know that. So because it's net zero, you'll still get the energy tax credits, correct?
Correct.
And you'll get the CHFA and the DOH as well?
We have been in touch with DOH. They won't make a commitment until we have an approved plan. So
Well, that's hard to determine whether it'll be viable or not.
this plan doesn't rest on receiving funding from DOH.
Okay, but if you did, that would certainly make it more viable,
It
correct?
makes it more economic.
profitable.
Absolutely.
Okay,
But if it doesn't, if DOH for whatever reason chooses not to assist in the financing of this, vessel has its own resources and would finance it privately.
okay. Thank you very much, I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Oh, Mr. Commissioner? Mr. Chair. One thing Commissioner Elliott brought up was the access along the bike route for the fire path. And I'm just a little confused because I had a conversation with Chief Baldus, and he had said that his plan for reaching the back units to me was to bring a truck up the path, not the big one, but one of the small trucks up the path, and you could access it like maybe through Mitchell or something like that. So is there a way we can get some clarification from Chief Baldus about whether part of his fire safety plan includes a plan to be able to access the back of the building through the bike path? Is there a way for us to ask him that?
Yeah, staff can certainly follow up with.
I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely, sure.
Thank you
We
very
can find
much.
that out for them.
Thank you very much.
We're not going to deliberate this evening anyway.
I know, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone in the public care to speak to this application?
Okay, for the record, name is Andrew Sylvain. I live at 6 Riverview Circle. A couple things I want to bring up is with the concentration of vehicles in one parking area. This is going to be one-stop shopping, I think, for catalytic converter thieves. They're going to be able to park over at the Riverside or Riverview Reception Center, walk down that bike path that's not going to be lit at night, and they're going to have direct access to this parking lot. So as you know, you've been reading about all the catalytic converters that have been stolen, and this is just going to be a one-stop shop, and once word gets out about that. Also, too, as children, there's going to be no place to play. Children are going to be in this parking lot doing what kids do. You know what I mean? Love the, they're just being kids and everything. So as e-commerce comes in, to and fro, everything, meal delivery, that's going to be a real hazard, I think, for the children that are going to be living in this place, because Simsbury's got great schools. I don't blame a single parent for wanting to come to this town to live in this apartment building to go to our wonderful schools there. A couple things with that, the kids are not going to take the bike path to the mobile gas station on the way to get a snack. They're going to go the most direct route, and that's going to be right on Route 202. It's not a very safe route. There's no sidewalks. That's definitely not a safe environment there. I know this has been said before, but I just want to reiterate it. Hazel Meadow 2 is 20 feet below, so all that exhaust from e-commerce, the vehicles, is going to settle down in that area and create a health hazard there. And also, too, the abandoned house next door, the White House, I don't know the number of it, but everyone knows about it. It's right next door. Kids are kids. I went to the emergency room many times as a child for stitches, and if that house is next door to my old house, I would have definitely partaken in it. So that's 56-year-old me saying that. I knew what 10-year-old me was like. And I was going to say something about the fire department, but it looks like that's ongoing. So I'll just kind of let you guys figure that out and everything. So thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Excuse me. Someone else like to speak to this application, please?
Is it okay if you show us a couple of slides for me?
Is this a new presentation? Okay. Thank you, Ann.
You don't want to hear my same old stuff. This topic wasn't really addressed, but I think it's really important. I know it's going to happen. I've been in there. If anybody's noticed, we had our property surveyed because we wanted to make sure we know our borders. And so they have been surveyed and pinned. And when I went in there to take photos of where all the pins were and where the survey marks were, that we had a company survey our property for us, I noticed that there were 15 large trees along the border. Oh yeah, there it is. So if you count, it's the green, right at the border, there's 15, medium to large trees. So, with their report, the soil people or the geoscience, they said to prepare the site for grading, the topsoil, organic matter, and other deleterious materials would be stripped, and then the soft, wet, loose, or otherwise unsuitable soils would be removed. And they caution that most existing in-place soils would be very sensitive to disturbances from construction equipment, especially during or immediately following periods of weather, and that conditions could become unstable. And my point is, when they come and grade this property, you see where the drainage systems are, or those storm tech chambers are. Can you go back, please, Andrew? Yeah, thanks. They're going to be grading out like more than 300 feet, just 25 feet from our border, which all of those trees are standing right now. So trees will grow roots that are 2 to 4 times the distance of their canopy. So some of those tree roots could be reaching as far as the center of their parking lot. So when they're going to be grading out this parking lot 6 and 7 feet deep for those chambers, they're just going to be ripping all of the roots out from those 15 trees, and for 300 or more feet, and they're going to be ripping them out all the way up to the border for that parking lot, and even they're going to have a retaining wall, put up a fence, everything. Those tree roots will be gone. So now those trees that are standing there will only have 1/2 of their tree root system. So, in some of the areas, like the storm drain, the central one will be 50 feet in width, by 50 feet in width by I don't know how long, but, the 300 feet is the whole distance from the first chamber to the last chamber along the edge. And being that it's only 25 feet from our border, I just think that over time, you're filling it with water, it's starting to drain out, it's not going to be as stable as you think it is. And those tree roots, probably most of those tree roots are what's holding up that embankment in the first place. So you rip them all out, then we're going to have here's the embankment. So you can see how steep it is. And their parking lot's going to come up to the very edge of that. So the natural soil and material that are there now will be replaced with foreign materials, which will include various plastics and various gravels. And what will this pollution be that enters the groundwater and then eventually the drinking water? And there was groundwater found on the last report, it said. So I'm concerned with the scientist at the first wetland meeting said that the first 20 feet of that bank will experience very dry conditions due to the pitch now that will be in the parking lot, and all the water that would have naturally run off of that bank and then, given those trees a drink, will no longer exist. It will be, pitched toward the center or toward the drain systems. So the scientists did admit that, for the first 20 feet of that bank, it will be very dry now. It won't get the usual drinks that it had been getting over time, all these years. So the trees, they'll be slowly killed in these areas where drainage pipes exist also, with the redirected polluted water coming to those areas in concentration. So you can have the 2 drainage pipes that will bring polluted water, and they'll, in that area, not only will the trees will be killed from the dry areas, but they'll be killed in the wet areas where the drainage pipes come out with polluted water, and also the bank where the water is gushing out is just going to be eroded. So, with the pollutants in the water, it goes directly to the Farmington River. You're going to have people floating in inner tubes, and they enjoy fishing, and, it's not going to be, I think it's a health issue. So, and also with the rotting trees, over time the parking lot area will experience large falling branches from dying trees onto parked cars and possibly tenants who happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't think this is a liability that should be forced onto the Hazel Meadow Homeowners Association. This lot is just like way too big. You're not taking the consideration of the natural environment that's there already. So as the trees die off, the lower root systems will rot, and it will inevitably fall over, who knows which direction, bringing all the dirt and root system that is left with them, causing the parking lot to buckle, as this jeopardizes stability of the nearby stormwater drain systems as well, and the safety of tenants in the apartment building. See, even that tree right there is just leaning, that's on our property, but it's leaning the other direction, leaning toward the parking lot. So I did read a little bit in the law library at the Connecticut.gov website, and it did talk about how it is legal for the, as far as encroachment is concerned. It said where trees are located on property of one party and their roots of the branches extend onto the property of a second party, the latter may lop off the branches or roots up to the line of his property. But it does not mean, of course, that complete disregard for the welfare of the trees is permitted. So there's like 15 trees right there. They're just, over time, it may not happen the first, second year, but I think over time they won't survive. They'll just start rotting out. So Keeping these findings in mind, the grading and removal of substantial root systems of our trees will begin their slow death. The remaining root systems on our property will be denied what was once a natural flow of rainwater to give them a drink. The polluted concentrated stormwater from the 2-acre lot developed into 70% of impervious area will be in such a volume at the drainage areas that will erode the bank leading to Second Brook and kill those trees as well. It is not that we don't want any water from 446 Hot Meadow Street. The embankment and its trees benefit from the natural flow of water, which now consists of grass, moss, and brush. What we don't want is the embankment area to be dried out due to misuse and misdirected surface waters, along with the concentrated will now be polluted water to the 2 areas, leading to critical wetlands and also cause erosion to those areas. And also, I wanted to reiterate, they claim there won't be any overflow discharge from those pipes. And if so, why are they there? Why are they in the plans? The fire department thing, I did have a bunch of questions on that. And I wanted to state too, when I'm walking down the trail, and I don't know how the fire department plans to get down to that building, but the gate at the banquet facility there's a gate there, it's closed, and it has a key, it has a lock on it. The gate at the commuter parking lot has lined parking places in front of it. It is often parked at because it's kind of shady, and people park there because they get a little shade in the afternoon. And in the wintertime, that's the snow storage area for that commuter parking lot is in front of that access gate. And I did kind of go down there and look at Mitchell's, and that's a really tight turn. And Mitchell's, right there at Mitchell's back exit, I had a photo, I didn't give it to Andrew to upload, but it comes out and then it makes a sharp left and then a sharp right. So I'm imagining the 40-foot truck trying to make that turn left and then all of a sudden have to make another left and then go straight again. I don't know, I was trying to imagine it. And also, if they were thinking about coming through Mathers Crossing, it would be impossible where we live because of just the tight turning radius to the right. Maybe you might be able to get an ambulance for sure down there, and they could remove the post that the red gates are held up with. I'm sure they just, an emergency purpose, you could get them out. But there's those 2 fences there. I don't know that it's impossible for a fire truck to make a right there, but maybe not impossible for an ambulance. I have one other thing. He already admitted that the bear-proof dumpsters, they're not really bear-proof. They're only bear-proof or bear-resistant as the tenants use them. So I asked Payne's, they informed me that there's no guarantee that those are bear-proof or resistant. That the door is held to the side of the dumpster with a carabiner. Everybody knows what a carabiner is. You need opposable thumbs to work it. So you close the door and you take the carabiner and you hook the little hole of the door through the hole of the dumpster. You all get it, right? So how long is it going to be before somebody says, "Oh, that carabiner, that would be great. I need that." And they would just, how long would it last there? And the bar on the top, you close it, lock it, but I don't know that that's feasibly for a lot of people to be able to push that bar back up after you put your trash in there. If it's, like saying, it's only as good as the tenants can use it. I wanted to know, I'm sorry, one more thing. I wanted to know, though, what the screen mesh is made of, because, and what your plan for mail and parcel delivery is. Because mail and parcel delivery, they only deliver to one central area now. No, the USPS, they no longer deliver to your door anymore, especially in an apartment building. And so you have to have a central box unit. And I don't know if you plan on any lockers, but if not, they'll just put the package at the mailbox, whether it be outside or inside. And if it is inside in that mesh screened area around the stairwell, could that be accessed by bears and enjoy that dog food, the deliveries from Walmart or Amazon food that's sitting there? And I know you always see bear videos online about, they're taking off of that front step delivery, it's like dog food or whatever. I just wanted to know what the screen is made of, and is that going to be a secure area for people's packages to be without the bear coming in and getting them? And one last thing, if I could, the busing. So in their their argument for the parking spaces, I just want to reiterate that the company tried to use a comparison that, oh, there's two places in Bloomfield, and I work in Bloomfield and deliver mail. I've been to all these places. They argue that these places in Bloomfield especially, they don't need the parking spaces because people won't park there. They won't need, that amount of spaces. So we won't need that amount of spaces. But if you look on the board, this is Simsbury's bus route on the left, one squiggly line with some dots to pick you up and drop you off. Bloomfield is in the center. So really, if you lived in Bloomfield, you don't really need a car if you're just going somewhere in Bloomfield. And that bus, there's 4 regular buses that run through Bloomfield. They run every 10 or 15 minutes. And they can also take you to West Hartford, they can take you to Hartford, and they can take you to Windsor. So, and in Middletown is the one on the right. They have a pretty extensive bus system too. So if you have an apartment, condo in Middletown, there's a likelihood that everyone in that house won't need a car either. You could share one car and take take a bus or whatever, get to where you need to go. So in Simsbury, you're going to need a car. So that's why I was kind of saying that all those parking spaces that they say are going to be along the wetland that people won't park at, they won't need them, they will be parking there. And they'll be leaking oil in a porous area, because they say they want them to be porous bricks because maybe for drainage, maybe to save the wetlands, but somebody's car is going to be parked there on those porous bricks because you will need every space there. And I know Bloomfield, a lot of my customers they have like one car they're sharing in the house. The rest of them, they all just walk around the corner and they get on a bus that comes by every 10 or 15 minutes. So you do need a car in Simsbury. A lot of the people in that apartment building will be driving the 2 tenants will each have a car. And the porous plans that they have underneath by the wetlands is not a good plan. I really think, I wish this building was a lot smaller. Like I had said, maybe 20 apartments, 30 at the most. You'd only have to have half as much parking space. You'd be saving our trees, saving the wetlands. It's just a win-win situation. So, sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh dear. Hi, Catherine Godikson, 7 Nutmeg Court. I'm going to talk about traffic and then some conditions that I hope, if this ever does get approved, that we would like to see happen. Andrew, if you could show that Google map. Yeah, it's too bad it's so light in here, you can't really see the detail. Where the black mailbox is the entrance that is proposed. It'll be, I guess, a little wider. You can see in this shot that the sight line, which they call acceptable, is hardly that. It's a curve and a hill. You really can't see an oncoming car when it's just in passing Mitchell's, and it's still obscured. Only when it kind of crests that hill can you start to see it, and it's very, very close to the light. That truck is blocking the actual light. You can't see it, so if you're coming out of there, you can't even really tell what's going on. So, Route 10 is a state road that is the busiest road in Simsbury. Residents and visitors alike use this road continually. Every manner of vehicle uses it: cars, SUVs, pickup trucks, motorcycles, tractor trailers, garbage trucks, cement mixers, tanker trucks, car carriers. I mean, every mode is used on this road. Every driver on this road has the benefit of the traffic light. That is, could you stop that video? Not yet. Let me finish this part and I'll tell you when to show the video, because it should be looked at. Thanks, Andrew. Anyway, every driver on this road has the benefit of the traffic light that is at the entrance of Powder Forest. This light is very close to the proposed entrance to the development, but that location is without the benefit of one. All the traffic comprised of tenants, visitors, delivery trucks for groceries, takeout, and other orders via FedEx, UPS, USPS, and Amazon in our age of e-commerce will have to take their chances getting in and out of this development without a light. Yeah, why don't we look at the video? This, Ann took this, I don't know, a little while ago, but you'll see. Yeah, okay, so, is there sound? No? Anyway, if you could hear the sound too, I mean, people do not go the speed limit here, I know, because I live near it. And so there's just a constant flow. People getting in and out of there is going to be very, very tricky without a light. And it's really worse because it is so close to a light that it's going to complicate how things are going to be for traffic. So, just a little bit more. Anyway, so in general, very few drivers go the speed limit, as I said. Yep, that's it. But at certain times of the day, there's a reason we call it rush hour. Drivers are often in a distracted hurry. Maybe they're texting, talking, eating, drinking coffee, adjusting the temperature, etc., while they try to make the light. As the saying goes, red means stop, you hope. Green and yellow mean hurry up to make the light. Drivers in general, but especially those driving heavy vehicles using Route 10, will not be able to stop quickly to avoid drivers trying to enter the traffic from the development without a light that all the other drivers enjoy. This location can literally be described as an accident waiting to happen. I would hate to be the person signing off on approving this location. This dangerous traffic location is the very definition of why this development should be denied, to protect substantial public interests in health and safety for everybody who lives in Simsbury and who comes to visit. So that's all I need to say about traffic. The next concerns some of the things that we would like to see if this project goes forward. Yeah, this shows, again, it's too bad you can't see the detail, but that car is parked for 15 Nutmeg Court. That's one of the parking spaces which leads to her home. What you see in the background is where the parking lot will be. That's how close it is. And even that building, that blue building that's going to be torn down if this goes forward, is even further back from where the property line is. So it's really close. So we would like to demand that at least a 6 to 8 foot fence be supplied because of the air pollution, light pollution, noise pollution, and also prevent any unfortunate snow removal being dumped over the bank. Let's see, I think that's, yeah, I had a video of that, but that didn't come through. Can you put up the shot of the vessel building? So that is why we would really want to have a fence installed at least 6 to 8 feet. Okay, so we have asked that light pollution from the lit staircase be contained, and I think the answer is always no. I'm not exactly sure why that needs to be that way, but if you see the panels down at the bottom, it means to me that they could reverse that they could, on the first floor, have the lit area just as an entrance, but the rest of it from that point up could be covered with those panels. That's what it looks like could happen. I think they've said no, they can't do that, but I don't know if they won't do that. So just in order to reduce the light pollution that is going to be coming off this bright white building towards us, that's what we would want as a condition. So, because also the building is still 4 stories high, they shortened the ends, but it's still that tall. So we're a little nervous about who they're going to be hiring or having as a property manager, should things need to be addressed. So we would certainly hope they would guarantee to have a professional property manager. And also, noise abatement of the mechanicals. No specific building plans have been submitted until after zoning and wetlands are done. And that's true of traffic too. I believe the DOT has guaranteed that they're going to do a proper traffic review, which will definitely be needed. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Bob Corbelli. I live at 446 South Meadow Street, the house in question. Okay, so I've just got a couple of questions. I spoke the last time. I've heard a lot of things about this house. Kids are going to play there. The world's going to end. It's an attractive nuisance. My understanding is that the town has condemned the property, and if you have, and I don't know that nobody's ever answered me for that question. I don't know if it's been condemned or not, but that's my understanding. If that's the case, then the town, via eminent domain, can solve that house's problem. They can take it down anytime they want. And I don't know when the last time anybody from the town was at the house. I was there today. There's not going to be any kids playing there because the floors are buckling. You can't get into 2/3 of the house. And anybody going in there, they're not going to get past 10 feet because the house is buckling. The house is a rat trap. I've lived there for 5 years. I've asked this house to be demolished for 5 years. Nothing has been done. I don't understand it. You talk about pollution. You're worried about the wetlands. This house is full of toxic chemicals. It's full of debris. All that stuff is currently, at this time, even as we speak, leaching into the soil. Where's the town? Where is it? I think that's a fair question. You worried about groundwater? Well, the groundwater is being contaminated right now. The town needs to do something about this house, and they absolutely refuse for their own reasons. I don't know what they are. There's a lot of speculation out there, but I'm not going to get into that. So that's really all I have to say. To end on a comic note, I think the town has the ability, through its experts, to determine how to remediate the property, how to fix it so it's not a nuisance, how to fix it so it's not contaminating the soil. I don't know that any of the members of the audience have arboreal science degrees or environmental remediation degrees, but I do know the town has experts who can do that. So again, when was the last time this place was visited by the town? Do you even know what's going on there? You don't. So you just spin your wheels, and this house is going to hurt somebody someday, and then the liability will be on the town because this speech of mine here will be Exhibit A to the lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you again. I'm like a bad penny, I keep turning it up. My name is Kelly Rothfuss, 14 Nutmeg Court. There was something that was said, I believe, and it was in the first zoning meeting, that there were questions about maintenance, and there was absolutely no plan. Is there going to be somebody living there? Oh, maybe there's some guy. Well, who's going to check the cisterns? Maybe this dude. There was absolutely no plan in place on short-term or long-term maintenance of the property. And so that bothered me, so I started checking. So property developers need to be dedicated to running their property properly and ethically when it comes to maintenance to ensure the health and safety of the tenants as well as the surrounding community. As of now, Vessel has not outlined a solid, tangible plan that details the daily and long-term maintenance of this property. The leadership of this company, CEO Neil Rubler, has a history of suspect practices when it comes to the maintenance of properties developed and managed by his companies. His first company, Vantage, which he doesn't even claim on his own LinkedIn page. Per the Village Voice, Vantage sought permission from HPD to remove building superintendents from 14 of its smaller properties in lieu of live-in supers. The company created a 24-hour telephone hotline service and provided the janitorial service. Concerns raised by advocacy groups indicate that the system was not performing as outlined by Vantage. In September of 2009, the city rescinded this approval of the hotline and demanded that Vantage put supers back in the buildings. Then,
It's completely out of order to have a discussion of this project.
Could you please, can you please address the application?
my concern is past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Simple as that. So there has been a history of the leadership of Vantage, Candlebrook, and now Vessel that has not done right by its tenants. And you want to put this building in my backyard, in this town, where if this building is not maintained properly, you're not only putting at risk all of those tenants in those buildings, you're putting at risk my home, you're putting at risk the home of my neighbors and other people in this town. So for me personally, that is a reason to address these things. This is a development and management company. They are not just building buildings. Part of their portfolio is managing these properties. And if they have shown delinquency in not managing their properties properly, I think that's a concern that we should hear, personally. But if that's not on the agenda, then I will move on to something else.
Are you moving on?
I'm asking, do you want...
We're not here, I'm sorry, we're not here to carry on a discussion with you. We did ask you to stay on the topic of the application, and going back into allegations which we have no idea about how to do anything about, I don't think it's fair to the applicant. But, so you can continue.
I'll just move on to the water concerns. Just putting it out there, I do believe, like I said, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So, my always biggest concern is that water and that diversion. There was a brand new geotechnical report revised February 8th in 2023. And there has been groundwater that has been found. I have been mentioned in other times about the civil rule law when it comes to water. Yes, it's not illegal to move water, but it is a liability factor. So there was an adjudication, Taylor versus Conti. A landowner cannot use or improve his land so as to increase the volume of the surface waters which flow from onto land of others, nor can he discharge surface waters from his land to the land of others in a different course in the natural flow. If so, by doing so, causes substantial damage, therefore can be liable. No, it's not illegal to move the water, but it is a really terrible thing to do, to move the water, which then damages other property. And there is an adjudication, which means they can be held liable for any damage that they cause by movement of water. And as we've seen from the plans, they're moving a lot of water. Okay. So just some questions is that, for one, detailed maintenance plan would be nice. It would be nice. What is their plan to maintain the property? Is it a management company? Is it a super? Is it a third party? What is it? I think that's something that is very valid that we deserve to have in detail. Liability. When damages occur because of water, because of trees falling, because of these things, who's holding them accountable? Is it the town? Is it the state? Do I have to individually go after them every single time something happens? Do our neighbors have to keep continuing to do that? That's a big question. And then the last is basically a statement. This company does not have, well, I probably can't say that either, but their one development that they have done is in an urban location. Urban. And it's a small building, 6 units. And now their second venture is to be right on the edge of a wetlands, on an embankment, massive structure. It's an experiment with soggy groundwater, soggy land, embankment issues. Do we really want to be the guinea pig for this? I know my home doesn't matter much to you, but it means the world to me. And it means the world to my neighbors who work their butt offs for their home and their place. And so it matters to me to know how this is going to be handled and how it will be handled properly. And it makes me nervous that this giant building could go in that place to a company that has zero experience in building in these kind of locations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else care to speak to this application?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Zhou. I own a property in Hazel Meadow, Homeowner Association 2. I came to this country about 22 years ago from China. And for the reason that this place is a democratic society where we can determine our own destiny. So I see this as a perfect place where the town can determine, a town's residents can determine what they want for their town, okay? So in this development situation, we are, as a Simsbury residents, we are for low-cost housing. We're not against it, but we are also for do it properly. It's not like hush-hush and irresponsible for the town and for all the residents of the town, for the neighborhood, for the community, and do it improperly, irresponsibly to those people who in the future are going to live in those apartments. There are so many concerns about safety. That's exactly the reason the town can reject this application. And I saw that Glastonbury, Rocky Hill have all duly rejected these similar projects by the same company, same applications. And I don't know exactly the reason behind, but based on the proposal here, they're jamming about 70+ units into a lot as small as my backyard. How can this happen? No, it's really impossible. I'm not an expert of zoning, of property development, but just think it with layman's reason, with general common sense. You never saw a 80-unit apartment jammed into a 2-acre land. That's just inappropriate. Simsbury have so many other lands we can properly kind of find and define and designate as future low-cost housing development. If the town is willing to do that, we as residents, we will support it. And we want to do it properly. I mean, we can spend $80+ million buy the tobacco farm and say, as a result, why couldn't we buy another proper piece of land and give it to developer to do to develop low-cost housing? But put it outside of that very heavy traffic Route 10, and that's killing people. Whoever approve this application, there will be blood on that signature. I guarantee it. Okay? So, historical record, as some of my community, other co-residents said, that this company doesn't have good record. If they had zero experience of developing so big apartment, and they even had very bad record about maintaining their promise and maintain their property properly. Those things we should consider in the application process. They cannot promise the whole world to us and say everything will be done properly. But in the end of the day, after development, after everything is done, after they get approval, we can't go to court like every day sue them. You know, that's too late already. Okay, I would suggest our zoning board and also the town management team to really look into this fact, how the other towns rejected their proposal. And if there is any legal cost, I mean, as town residents, I'm willing to initiate funding event, fundraise events to support our legal costs to defeat this, I would call it exploitative and predatory project for Simsbury. Because Simsbury, we pay a very high tax, and I have to search a lot of towns. I finally find Simsbury as a perfect place to put my family in. I don't want to see this being kind of destroyed. No, this is not the right way of doing things. That's it.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, and I'm sorry if somehow I missed it. My name is Ellen Gilbert. I live at 126 Hot Meadow Street in Talcott Acres. Now that we're looking at 60 apartments, how many of those apartments are affordable housing? I heard one of the 2-bedroom is going to be affordable housing, correct?
Excuse me, the statute requires 30%, and they're going to adhere to that.
Well, I want to know the numbers. I want to know the numbers because that helps us to look at the risk. You know, if we're looking at just a couple of affordable housing apartments in 60, now it changes the balance of, you know, this big building. It's big no matter what. But if we're making this decision based on it's affordable housing, they can just do what they want. I want to know. I'm sorry. The original number of affordable housing units versus what it is now, I want to know what is the difference.
I'm sorry, we're not here to answer questions like that.
You're not going to answer how many affordable housing units will be in the 60?
I'm sorry, the applicant may choose to answer that, but this is not a debate between the residents and the applicant.
But in terms of the safety of the people, the traffic, all those things.
Those are legitimate concerns,
and the reason
correct.
that it's affordable housing is making it be the so okay reason. I want to know how many apartments is now making it so okay.
Okay, we'll get the answer and send it to you.
19 is 30%. 19.
My arithmetic fellows are.
She's got a
say
calculator.
19.
My calculator is what it is.
It's 30%.
Anyway,
19.
Anyone else want to speak? Okay, I think we're ready for.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we continue the public hearing on application ZC 23-03, 446 Hot Meadow Street to the regular meeting on May 1st, 2023 at the Simsbury Library, 725 Hot Meadow Street, for the purpose of receiving the final decision report from the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency.
I'll second it.
Second, Leanne. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just add one thing from staff's perspective. You did ask for some additional information on fire service and fire access, so we'll report on that date as well.
To include a drawing
Yes, sir.
of
Absolutely.
the east side fire access apparatus.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I would say it's not limited to. Yeah, not limited to, but including this final decision from the.
I had another issue on this. Are you up to discussion? We've had a motion and a
On
second.
the motion, yes.
You need a second?
And second.
It's already second, and so we're in discussion. Okay. I'm concerned that we're only allowing ourselves, or the applicant has only allowed us a couple more weeks here to consider a substantial change. And my concern is that if we had, and I heard him describe the concern at the inland wetlands meeting, that the zoning commission was going to oppose approval of their application, that his client encouraged that the team present the revisions that we're looking at now then. And so on April 4th, they came forth with these changes. And the statute on 8-30G, no, wait a minute, Dave, wait a minute.
Public hearing open so they can bring more information in.
I know, but my point is we were giving ourselves 2 more weeks. When if we had in fact voted no, if we had voted this thing down, and then they came back with the revisions, we'd be entitled to a 65-day period to evaluate the revised
We
plan.
can't vote until the inland wetlands report is.
I know. But why are we giving ourselves 1 more meeting when it's so unlikely? When we sit down that day, we're going to hear what inland wetlands had to say. I think we need more than 1 more meeting to resolve this. We need some significant time, I think, to discuss them among ourselves.
Wait a minute, we're only continuing the public hearing to the 1st of May. That's the motion that's on the table.
I understand that.
It says we can go beyond that should we choose, but.
Should we choose without
and
the
then we
applicant's
get an
consent?
extension,
No,
so-
he has to give us the extension.
He has to give us consent.
Okay, but that's where we are.
Okay.
Will we have to vote at that meeting?
No.
Okay.
No, we have to vote now on this.
Yeah, but we won't have to vote at the next public hearing.
Well, unless-
The application itself, correct?
Currently, you've got an extension from the applicant through May 2nd, which is, just through May 2nd, but your meeting's on May 1st. The Inland Wetland Commission is meeting tomorrow, and then potentially having a special meeting the following week to attempt to take action on this application. So
We don't know whether we have to vote or not.
Oh, we might have to actually vote.
We might. Eventually, we have to, but if wetlands turns it down, for example, we don't know.
I'd recommend we cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, we cross that
I
bridge.
think I
when
would
we
agree
come to it.
with Bruce that I would appreciate more than just the one next meeting. I'd like to have a meeting where we can discuss the application and
We
haven't
will.
done that.
Sorry.
You're making no
Let's go
commitment to the total number of meetings.
You're jumping to conclusions.
Pardon?
You're jumping to conclusions about what we should do if something happens. And let's close this let's continue this public hearing, and we can discuss more, given what happens in between.
Okay.
All in favor?
I don't get to.
Opposed?
Opposed.
You're opposed to continuing it?
I'm opposed to the stipulation that it's a 1 more meeting extension.
It isn't 1 more meeting.
The
It's
date's
to
there.
the next meeting.
Right.
Done this 3 times already.
I know.
We can
Just one more
continue to
time,
do
right,
that.
Bruce?
But we can't possibly resolve this at the next meeting. They won't have voted yet. So why don't we go at least 2 and use the date of?
Because we don't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Motion
think that's
passes
wise.
5-1. Okay?
I can see
Bruce
that.
is against.
Right.
We cannot act this evening because we have not heard from inland wetlands. We have an extension from the applicant to May 2nd, which is the day after our next meeting. And given what inland wetlands does, then we will have to convene and take whatever action is possible at that time.
He gave us to May 2nd in case it goes all night into the 2nd.
I guess the question is, if on May 2nd, if inland wetlands has made their decision, is it within our power to extend another 2 weeks? Or are we?
Mr. Chairman, you have a motion,
we
and
have to get
you've adopted
an
the motion.
extension.
I would be careful about having additional discussion. You've adopted
Yes.
the motion by a vote of 5-2.
Yes. Okay. Okay, and we have an update on.
Staff doesn't have any additional items for this evening.
You don't have any? Then,
Motion to adjourn.
second by Ann.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 6-0.